Hello everybody, HBcraft here, and this is a new series. I wanted to start a series taking a look at specific mods. I guess you could call this a mod spotlight or a mod showcase, something like that. I'm hesitant to call it a tutorial. I guess it is in a certain way, but I don't believe in my expertise enough to say that it's a tutorial, but yeah, you know. So today we're going to be taking a look at integrated dynamics. A very interesting mod here that I've been playing about with for a while now. It doesn't necessarily, it can't transfer items or energy or anything like that. Its main use is for reading and reading and interpreting different kinds of information from the world. So like block information, world information. Yeah, but we'll get to that in a minute. It's especially good when it comes to automation. But we'll look into that in a second. I just want to go through the basics of getting set up here with the mod. So it has its own world gen. It does make these mineral trees. It has its own biome as well called Mengelin, I think, or something like that. But yeah, so you'll find these trees everywhere, but more frequently in its own biome. So there's two parts to these trees. You've got the leaves and the logs. As you can see, the leaves here are dropping mineral berries. I believe these are used to craft some things like the light panels and stuff like that. So you can break these, you will get the berries and the saplings. The main thing that we're after though is these logs. So as you'll see, there's logs like this that have a little blue thing. They're called enriched mineral log, and just the regular one here. So if I'm just going to give myself an axe. So if we break a regular log, you get a mineral log, but if you break one of these enriched ones, you'll get some of these chunks as well. So these chunks are essential to crafting most of the integrated dynamics mod. Most of the recipes here involve these crystallized mineral chunks. The way we get hold of large amounts of this is we take our logs here and we set up two items from the mod itself. We've got the squeezer and the drying basin. You want to put these next to each other because this is going to feed into the drying basin here. So let me just get a button. Not at button. Yep, one of those. And pop that there. You'll understand why that's there in a minute. But if we just place a log in here, we then have to jump on top of this. As you can see, it's going down. Only one issue I have with this is the corners here, because if you jump and land on one of them, you can't actually use it. But so we do this. It'll be squeezed into the basin here, and then after a few seconds, it will harden. And there we go. We have a block of crystallized mineral, and then you can put this into your crafting grid and get the chunks out. So that's a pretty easy way to get them. And then this button's here just to reset the squeezer here, so you can go ahead and do it again. Yeah, so this is basically the main ingredient here. The few other things we'll need just to get started are we need a wrench, we'll need some cables wherever they've gone, there they are. We'll need some variable cards, which are there, get some of those. There's also a manual as well and kind of an in-game tutorial if you want to go through that. It's quite handy. I'm just going to set the time as day. Yeah, it's quite handy if you want to go through that. It does explain quite a lot of the mod, might be quite useful. But yeah, let's get started on this. So the cables look like this. As I mentioned before, they don't actually transfer items. It's just for transferring information. But yeah, you'll see these connect like so. The first use of the wrench is to separate the cables here. So you can have two parallel sets of information going through here, which is quite handy. Also, if you shift click, you will break things instantly. Most of the mod pack can be broken with this wrench, so that's quite handy. What else have we got? Variable cards we'll come to in a second. Let's just set something up here quickly, just so I can show you practically how this mod is used. So there are various forms of readers and writers here. We'll start off with the readers. There's various ones. We've got audio reader, and we've got a block reader, entity reader. These pretty much do what they say, you know, this one reads audio, this one reads blocks. We'll start with a inventory reader for now, just because it's the most self-explanatory one. We'll get one of those. First, before we attach anything to this, we need to give it some power. So I'm just going to grab one of these already powered energy batteries here. If we pop this onto our system, okay, so now the network has power here. We can then place our reader at the end here. So this is an inventory reader. If I right click on this now, we get access to these things here. These are called aspects. So these are going to be reading. So it's a reader. It'll read whatever inventory is in front of it here. So, and it'll read aspects such as whether the inventory is full, whether it's empty, whether it's not empty, how many items are in there, you know, slots filled. This is a list of what items are in there. If you hover over these, you can get a bit more information if you're ever wondering what they are. So as you can see, it's pretty powerful in that sense. Let's just put a chest in front of this, and I will show you what it does. Okay, so there's a chest there. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to check whether this chest was empty. So if I use our variable cards here, these are just used to store various aspects that we're going to compare to each other and check and stuff like that. So let's check whether the inventory is empty. So now that particular thing is attached to that variable card. So we can go ahead and compare this with something else. So we could check, is this card equal to blah, blah, blah. So we're going to check if the inventory is empty. What we will do on the other end here is we will place a redstone writer. So integrated. You've got various writers here as well. Audio, effect, inventory, and redstone writer here. We'll just use a redstone writer for now. So if I pop this on the end here, so this is going to write redstone signals for us depending on what kind of variable or condition we put in here. It's also worth mentioning before we go any further that if you are a programmer or you've had experience with that kind of stuff before, this will make a lot of sense to you already. If not, don't worry. It's fairly intuitive once you get into it, so just follow along and it will make sense pretty soon. Yeah, so we've got a redstone reader here, writer, and we're reading this inventory. So maybe we want to play, well, let's see, what can we do here? Why don't we just make a redstone signal? So we'll get some redstone. Currently, nothing is coming through here. The way we check this, because it's all connected to our system here, is we use this variable we made, which is checking if the inventory is empty. We can just place that in here, like so. So as you can see, it's evaluated that already, and it's saying true, the inventory is empty, so it's actually giving us a redstone signal here. If I were to put something in here, the inventory would no longer be empty, and this would evaluate to false, which would turn the redstone off. So hopefully that makes sense to you. That's kind of one of the basic uses we can use this for. We could also do something, for instance, like, why don't we check whether... let's say, for instance, you've got a mob farm off in the distance, really far away, and you've got a chest here that's collecting the items. Maybe you want to check that a certain amount is in here. So let's say that... I don't know, that 5 slots are filled. We want to check whether 5 of these slots are filled. And if 5 of these slots are filled, we want it to play a little note over here in our base somewhere. So let's go to slots filled here. And as you can see, it says 5 because there are 5 slots filled currently. We'll store that to a variable card. Okay, and we'll just clear this out because we don't want it to be true yet. This is where another item from this particular mod comes in. Which is called the logic programmer. If I can find that, there it is, logic programmer. We'll also need a variable store, which I'll tell you about in a second. But if we place this down, this will give us access to various different item types and operators and all sorts of things here. Don't worry if you don't understand what some of these mean, we'll get to it. So we can do things here like, for instance, we can make an integer. If we pop a variable card in here, we can do an integer, which is just a number. We've got things like list, which if you're familiar with programming, it's basically an array. We've got strings, which is words and characters, that kind of stuff, and item types and loads of other stuff in here. But we're just going to make an integer. Let's put 10. So now 10, the number 10 is stored to that variable card. But we actually want to change it to 5 because we want to check if 5 slots are filled. So let's change this. Okay, so now 5 is stored on that variable card, and we can check whether the slots filled is equal to 5. So let's do that using one of the operators if we just scroll down a bit. So these ones here, the purple ones, are the ones we want. These work with most variable types. They're pretty self-explanatory. You've got like equals, which is the two equal signs. There is the greater than and the not equals to, and greater than or equals, and so on. But we want to use this equals one at the top here. So as you can see, we've got two slots, and what we want to do is check. So check if the slots filled is equal to the number 5, and then we can write this to its own variable card here. We'll take that out, and then this variable card now contains that particular condition. So let's go over to here. If we pop this into our redstone writer now, and yep, there's an X there. Ignore that for now. That's just to do with our variable store, but we'll come back to that in a second. Just pretend that the X isn't there. So now the redstone writer is only going to make a redstone signal if that particular conditional statement we made is met. So let's place our variable store down here. So now the network has access to that, and it's going basically these two variable cards are being referenced by this redstone writer now, so it needs access to them. So if we pop them in the variable store, now the whole network can use those variables to compare them to each other, basically. So if we put a redstone signal here now, and you can see that that's evaluating to false. So if we were to put 4 of those in there now, you'll see nothing happens. But if we put 5 in, it's going to become true, and there we go, we get a redstone signal. So let's say, for instance, maybe you wanted a little note to play, so let's get a note block here. So maybe when 5 slots are filled, you want a little note to play in your base over in the distance. So let's put 5, there you go, and you get a little note. So yeah, this is quite useful if you want to notify yourself of various things throughout your world. You can have little note blocks letting you know that things are happening. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. There's loads of different readers here. I'm not going to cover them all, but it's worth just going through them in your own world. We've got things like the audio reader, block reader, NC reader. There's the world reader. Yep, this will read things like weather and time. Yep, stuff like that. So yeah, it's worth going through these. If you hold shift, you can see a bit more of the info on there. Just have a play about with them and see what they do. Pretty good way to go about it. So the next thing we're going to do here is work out using the block placer. So I'm going to need a few things. I'm just going to clear this chest out here, and we'll clear the inventory reader as well. There we go. Okay, so let's grab a few things for this. So we're going to need an atomic reconstructor. Yeah, one of those. We'll also grab a automatic placer. Yep, one of those. And a mechanical user as well. Yep, oh, there's a mechanical miner as well. We could have used that. Okay, anyway. So you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. We also need a block placer. I haven't got one of those. Sorry, a block reader. There we go. And we also need a creative energy source here. Let's use this one. Okay, if I just set something up here. So say, for instance, you were using the atomic reconstructor here. If I just power this, it's going to be sending out a pulse. So let's say I wanted to turn quartz blocks here. So load of these. And I wanted these to turn into the aesthetic quartz block, which is the Actually Additions. There it is. Which is the Actually Additions version. So if we put that in front of there, you'll see it will pulse and it will change it to that. So let's say we wanted it to change the block and then mine it, but we also want it to place the block as well. If we were to try and just put a placer here, it would place it and then possibly break it before it gets changed. So we can use the mod here to actually identify what kind of block it is and whether it needs breaking or not. So if we put the auto placer here, oh, I do apologize, I've got the wrong machine here. We actually need the auto breaker. Yep, that one. Okay, and we will place this down here. And we will also place our mechanical user up here. And we'll get rid of this. Okay, and let's extend the cable round the side here. How do we want this to go? Yeah, let's do this. And then we will get another redstone writer here. Redstone writer. And we will place that on the inside there so that we can control this here. I just need a redstone torch so we can deactivate this. This is automatically on anyway, so if I just change it to off, then it's only going to be turned on by the redstone writer here. Okay, and then if we see now, if I put a block of quartz here, and we activate this, it's just going to break it straight away. So if I do this, it's just going to break it straight away, and it doesn't have a chance to get changed into the quartz. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our block reader here. Oh, that's the inventory reader. I do apologize. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, and we will get our block reader here. That's the one we actually need. We'll put that there. Okay, if we go in here, we get access to various things, like whether it has a block here, the dimension, whereabouts in the world it is, but we're interested in this, what type of block it is here. So if we put a variable card in here, that will write that to the variable card for us, and then we can use this to compare against certain things. So if we go into our logic programmer here, I'm going to create a block type here. So we want to check the, so we'll make a variable here of this particular block type. So that's stored onto this card now. And we can use our equals to thing again that we used before, and we can check whether the block type here is equal to aesthetic quartz. Okay, and then we'll store that here. And then we will go over this side here. So we want this redstone writer here to only trigger when it is meeting this particular condition that we've set. And it's going to shout us because we need to put those variables into the store here like we did last time. But now we can see that there's a tick there, and we just need to turn this off again so that it won't break it every time. Okay, so if we place a block of quartz here now, it won't break it until it changes to aesthetic quartz, and then this condition is met, and it will turn this block breaker on and break it. So now we can get the mechanical user involved here. If we put the block of quartz in there, this is going to place the block of quartz, the atomic reconstructor will change it, and then that will break it. And there we go, we've automated that system there. So that's one of the ways that we can use this particular setup. There's a few more things involved in this mod. For instance, you've got like the redstone reader here. So if we redstone reader, gives you access to various things here, like a redstone clock, which we can use. And you can set various things about this, like the interval and the length, which is quite good. There's also things like lighting panels. If we take a look at those, we've got some lighting panels here, static and dynamic. The last thing I wanted to check out here, just to take you through, is the proxy and the materializer. Fairly confusing concepts, but if you bear with me, I'll try and explain it the best I can. So the proxy here is going to allow us to dynamically set variables. You can pipe variables in and out of here, which is kind of the main reason for having it. But let's just set up a little system here, and I'll show you how this works. We're just going to need to power this. Do we have? Yeah, we've got a battery here. We'll pop that there. So this is getting power now, and we will attach a display panel, which we have here. Okay, and then what I would like to do is create a few integers here. So if we go into our integer list, we will make 0. Actually, why don't we do strings? Just to show you a different type here. So we will create 1. So we've got 1 here. 2, and 3. Okay, so now we've got those stored on our variable cards. We can stick those into here and it will display them for us. But what we want to do is use our proxy. So if I attach a variable, if I put this into here like this, and we attach this variable card to this particular proxy, I can place this into our display here. I just need to connect this to our network. 1 second, forgot about that. So this is going to display the proxy here. Now the point of this proxy is that you can dynamically change it. So if I remove this and put 2 in there, it will now display through this variable card because this is connected to the proxy. So where this comes in handy is if we were to use a hopper or some kind of piping system. Let's get a hopper. And we place this on the top here. We can drop our variables into here, and let's pull these out somehow. Shall we use a... how do we use... Okay, so what we can do now is if I just dig underneath here, because we need to connect to the bottom of this particular machine. If I use a, let's say, item conduit here to pull the items out, we'll set this to only be active with a signal, and we'll connect a redstone conduit here just so we can give it that signal. And let's put a chest underneath to pull the variable cards out of, and we'll insert into that. So this is hooked up now to pull the variable cards from here into there on a signal. So let's give it a button here. So now when we click this, if you take a look at the screen, we've got 1, 2, and 3. So there you go. You can see how we can change the variable dynamically here using the proxy. And then the last thing we're going to take a look at is the materializer. So this is the materializer. We will hook this up to our system. Similar interface to the proxy. What this one is going to do is, rather than making a dynamic variable, it's going to make a static variable. So for instance, if we had a chest, let's grab another chest. Let's say we had a chest hooked up to our system. Let's put it here. And let's say this chest had loads of different random items in it. And we wanted to use an inventory reader to read the list of items from this. So let's do this. Okay, so now the items are on here. We can use the materializer here to write this particular thing here to a variable. And then now that particular list is set to this variable card here, so we don't actually need the variables in our system to access that. It will just be stored onto this card now. So now if we were to take these out of here, you'll see that the list hasn't changed here. It's because we've used that materializer to write a static non-changing value to that particular variable card there. This could be utilized in terms of materials. Say you wanted to make a list of things that were in the chest, you could pull them out, save them to a static variable, and then even if this changes, you've got a history, kind of a list of what was in that particular chest. There's way more uses for all this kind of stuff. It's a bit out of scope for this tutorial, but I hope this has been interesting for you. And I hope that you can utilize this in your own game and use it for automation, as I have done many times. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.